Hi, my name is BC Hoffman.
And I'm Adrian Bustamante.
And today on Recipe Wars, we are doing cream of mushroom soup. So it's kind of cool. I'm super excited. I am actually doing Tyler Florence's cream of mushroom soup.
Wild mushrooms, roasted fennel, and chestnuts are an amazing flavor combination, and better yet, they make a delicious soup, which is going to be a great starter to your holiday extravaganza. And the best thing about it, we got some simple ingredients and some simple techniques, and we are going to bang it out.
So cream of mushroom soup isn't just the 1934 Campbell's soup rendition. It goes way above and beyond that, back to the classic French bechamel sauce. And basically all it was a roux, it was your cream, it was your mushrooms, it was your stock. Plain and simple. And what I really love about Tyler Florence's dish is he kind of goes to those days, but he also adds in a nice twist. It gets really sexy because he has the fennel, which is a slight, subtle anise flavor, and then he's got these nice roasted chestnuts, and then he's got, besides just the button mushrooms, he's got some amazing chanterelle and also oyster mushrooms. So I am super excited for this recipe right here.
I'm a big fan of mushrooms. It's actually one of my favorite things to add to any dish. My two favorite mushrooms are shiitake and actually what I'm using here in Chef Emeril Lagasse's recipe, porcinis.
Emeril Lagasse here. Welcome to the Essence of Emeril. You know, mushrooms. I just love mushrooms. One of my favorites, or as I call it, the king of mushrooms, is the porcini. Now, stop right there. Don't be alarmed. There's a lot of confusion in this country between porcini, the Italian name, and ceps, which is the French name. They're fat and they're earthy. Now, the porcini is most often seen dried here in this country. That's what these are right here. And they would always be labeled dried porcinis, not dried ceps.
Let's get started.
All right. Now, I think we're both starting in very similar ways, correct?
Butter.
Butter. I'm going to be throwing some onions, some diced white onions, and some leeks in mine. And then you're throwing what?
I'm doing some diced onion and some garlic. So the recipe, we're cutting that bad boy in half that Tyler Florence uses because it's immense. This is going to be big enough as it is, but that recipe is huge. So I'm literally using half of an onion. I'm using 3 cloves of garlic. I like to use a little extra personally. And we're just going to throw these in right there. And you just want a nice slight, you're basically sweating them. You want the sugars to come out, but at the same time you don't want a lot of color. You just want it to be nice and flavorful, and you want the excess liquid to kind of disperse.
Now to the pot, we're going to add some base flavors. I've got 1 onion, all right, that we're simply just going to mince up. All right, I've also got a couple of cloves of garlic. All right, and what we're going to do is we're going to chop up the onion, then we're going to smash up the garlic, and the whole thing's going to go in the pot.
Another important thing is when you are doing this at home, what the recipe calls for is roasting the fennel in advance. So basically, in order to roast the fennel in advance, the fennel is a bulb. So it almost looks kind of like a cross between, I would say, an onion meets celery. And you're just gonna cut it in half, and you're gonna throw it in a roasting pan, put a little olive oil on top, a little salt, pepper, and just throw it in the oven. You could totally blanch it. You could. There's a bunch of ways you could do it, but roasting it brings out more flavor. And this is delicious. Adrian, you gotta try a piece of that.
This thing is, I'm a little curious because I'm not a huge fan of fennel because I don't really like the flavor of anise that much. It is a very subtle flavor, but we'll see what it does. I have a feeling it's going to really enhance that flavor. It goes really well with mushrooms.
So I made this the other day, and honestly, I had my friends just picking at the fennel. I was like, no, stop, I need that for the soup. And they just kept eating my fennel. But it's really good stuff.
Now I'm just going to saute my leeks and my onions down, give that a little few minutes, and then I'm going to add my mushrooms. But one thing that Emeril kind of did talk about, and I found kind of interesting in regards to a porcini, is you can't really see it here. This is what we use in regards to the dry porcini.
The Italian one.
The Italian one. When you see a cep, now which is a fresh version of the mushroom, you'll notice that they actually have pores instead of gills. Whereas, well, these are cut up as well, so you're not going to really be able to see them that much. But you can a little bit. You'll see like the little gills inside there. Yeah, so instead of gills, porcinis have pores. And the actual pores come from the mushroom itself dropping thousands of spores from the inside of its walls when it's actually in the ground or fresh. So that's the difference between a cep/porcini and a regular mushroom.
So I'm literally going to saute these mushrooms up so the excess moisture comes out and basically evaporates. There is a lot of moisture in a mushroom. If you ever take a mushroom, especially portobellos, put them in the oven so the cap is facing down and the gills are facing up. If you put it in the oven and roast it, you'll see all this excess water just kind of like pool in the center of it. So there is a good amount of moisture, so you definitely want to get rid of that.
And that's one of the reasons I actually talk about when you actually have any type of mushroom like portobello or cremini, the one thing you don't want to do is wash them underwater. That's just going to have them absorb that much more water. So a really good way to do it, which I do at home, is I just get a paper towel, dampen it, and kind of rub the top of it and a little bit of the bottom if you're going to use some of the stem. If you're going to use some of the stem, I would actually also consider chopping off kind of the small base of it as well. But that's just an easy way to clean it without having to worry about all the water getting logged in that mushroom.
And if you are going to use water to clean them off, by all means use a sieve so that way you get any excess grit that you don't want in the mushroom out. And our recipes say that you have to chop the mushrooms finely before you actually throw them in the saute pan. Not necessary. You know why? Because both our recipes are doing cream of mushroom soup, which means we're pureeing these bad boys, which means it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, and now BC spoke to the sieve. Now we actually use a sieve with these as well. Once these were in the wine, to actually drain some of the wine off of the mushrooms, I drained it through a sieve. That also was not to only get the wine out, but was to also make sure that we kind of all the graininess that might have fallen off in the wine itself out of there, as I don't want to add that to my soup. So it's a good way to kind of take care of that.
By all means. Also, just so you know, so we're sauteing up the mushrooms, and to get all that extra moisture out, it takes about 10 to 15 minutes on a low to medium heat. So just a side note. Another thing is the recipe calls to salt and pepper your mushrooms once you put them in here. That's great in theory, depending on the stock that you're using. A lot of times the stock is going to be very salty or peppery. Or in the case of the Madeira wine that you're using, which is a fortified wine from Portugal, you're going to make sure that it doesn't have too much of a peppery flavor. A lot of times the wines that come from there, if it's not too sweet and it's used for cooking, they actually incorporate salt and pepper into it. So be careful seasoning in advance because there's already flavor in the base of the stock that you're using.
I placed my mushrooms in the pan. It's going to cook for about 4 minutes or so. You'll notice that some of the juice that's in the bottom is going to be in there. I'm going to let that evaporate as well and kind of soak into the dish. But it's going to be about 5 minutes or so with me. I don't know what you have left in your pot.
I've got another 5 minutes going right now, but if you guys want to just take a quick look at what your mushroom should be looking like right now, this is how it should look, and it is looking delicious. You can see a little excess moisture on the bottom. I just want to get rid of that right there.
Yeah, I can smell the porcini mushroom in mine, that nice, hearty, deep, rich flavor. Mine's all done. Looks like all the liquid's pretty much evaporated from mine. We just got some time left on yours, looks like.
Mine's done too.
Oh, nice.
I'm actually gonna throw in my roasted chestnuts now. Yeah, you can totally buy them at the store. Yes, Trader Joe's even has them already cooked and then vacuum sealed. So you could totally get them at the store already roasted, or you can just go through the process of buying them. It is the holiday season, so there are chestnuts at stores now. It's really easy. You basically boil and roast your chestnuts. It's a simple process. Crack them open and they taste amazing. You can use them for stuffing. You can use them for cream of mushroom soup. So, or you can just eat them raw. I'm gonna throw these bad boys in there, and then I'm going to throw in a little thyme.
I'm just gonna throw my flour in here, kind of start creating that little bit of a roux that's gonna happen, and then from there, I'll add my vegetable stock and cream.
So he actually uses this entire sprig that's not gonna come off, but I just wanna show you guys at home how simple and easy it is to actually take the leaves off the fresh thyme. So all you're gonna do is you're literally gonna hold it at the very top and then just go with your fingers downward, and all the leaves will just sprinkle right off into or onto whatever they're on top of. Simple, easy, and that being said, I am ready to put my fennel right in there too. Stir that bad boy around. I'm gonna get all that excess oil that was in the pan when we roasted it in there as well, because that's just added flavor right there.
All my mushrooms are starting to thicken up a little bit. This little roux that I have going from the flour that I just threw in. So I'm gonna give that maybe 1 or 2 minutes of just cooking on its own, and then I'm gonna start adding my liquids to it.
Yeah, this is gonna take about maybe a minute, 2 minutes tops, and then I am actually gonna start throwing in my liquids. Okay, so I think we're both ready.
We're both ready to do this.
Both ready to do it.
Let's get the liquid going. So before I actually get my liquid going, I'm gonna take about a cup of the ingredients that I have going, let's say about a half cup, because I did cut the recipe in half. And I'm literally just gonna take those, put them on the side. And the reason why I'm doing that is so I can use that as a garnish for the actual soup when I'm done. And we're just gonna set that aside for reservations later. And I'm ready to start adding in my chicken stock. So it calls for 1.5 quarts of chicken stock. And for those of you who don't know at home, that's 6 cups. And you're just gonna add this in and you're gonna reduce it. Let it simmer and reduce, and that's gonna take roughly 10 to 15 minutes on a high boil with no lid covering it. On top of that, the base is gonna basically be almost like a bechamel, like I said earlier. And cream of mushroom soup has become, especially in America, known as America's bechamel.
Now I've added vegetable stock to mine instead of chicken stock, so this is, I guess, a vegetarian meal for everyone at home. Ish.
Mine's not, it's got chicken stock. Yours is.
Mine is, yeah. So mine is a vegetarian soup for yourself and everybody at home, not vegan, but vegetarian. I've done about the same thing in regards to number, 1.5 quarts or so of vegetable stock. And then I'm also adding the whole sprig and leaf of thyme, just 2 of them in there, just to add a little hint of flavor to the dish as well.
Neither one of us have actually added in the cream yet, and the reason for that is that's gonna go in at the very end, and you're literally just gonna cook that down for about 2 minutes at the very end, so don't get ahead of yourself.
Yeah, don't go ahead adding that cream right away. So I'm gonna do the same thing, give this about 10 or 15 minutes or so of actually reducing, add the cream, and then I'm gonna throw it over to my blender in a second. So
I'm gonna use my handy immersion blender right here and do the same thing in about 10 to 15 minutes as well.
So I'm gonna start transferring some of my soup into my blender to kind of get it all blended together. While I'm doing that, I'm also gonna be seasoning it as well, maybe a little more salt and pepper just to taste. So you want more salt, add more salt. You want more pepper, do the same as well. I used low sodium vegetable stock, so I'm gonna be adding just a little bit more salt.
And again, the whole reason why you season at the very end is because as everything is coming to fruition and the flavors are really coming out, the salt, if you put it in prior, is really gonna stand out, and it's gonna actually accentuate and become stronger and saltier. So just a side note.
So you wanna make sure if you're using a blender that when you do ladle, you bring out mostly mushrooms. Obviously you're gonna bring out liquid with it as well, but you want the flavor from the mushrooms to be in your soup. So just make sure you're doing mostly mushrooms, but you'll also get the liquid with it too.
So while you're doing that, I'm going to do my final step before actually plating and throw my cream in there and give that a good mix for, I'd say about 30 seconds, and then actually cook it down for about another 2 minutes. And just a side note on that, the cream is gonna add not only the creaminess of the soup, but it's also gonna add sweetness to it. And I'm using about a half cup. Remember, I'm cutting it in half.
My soup is done. It's blended, it's ready. You all set?
I'm ready. Let's plate these bad boys out and see who is the winner. Other than here in beautiful sunny Southern California and in Miami, it is cold everywhere else in the country. So that being said, we have some really nice, earthy, flavorful, hearty, warm cream of mushroom soup to soothe and warm your soul.
So it looks like we're ready.
Let's do this.
Let's see how these taste.
Okay, so should we start with a little Emeril or a little Florence?
Let's go with Florence.
Okay.
I had to think about it. There you go.
That's a good cream of mushroom soup right there.
Good Korean mushroom soup. I'm definitely getting those hints of that chestnut and the fennel in there. And again, the one thing, it's a really good soup. The only thing is, like, I'm not a fan of the anise. And I said that earlier before, I was like a little worried about that. I can definitely just taste whenever there's anise in my food. I'm like, oh.
I find I lose these battles whenever like there's an ingredient that Adrian doesn't like in the dish. He's like, I don't like heat.
I don't like anise. I don't like food.
I'm losing.
I don't like food. I don't like when BC cooks with food.
I don't either.
All right, let's check this out.
Okay. This is already right off the break. It's so much darker in color than mine. Mine looks like a cream of mushroom soup. Yours looks like dark.
Yours looks like dark per BC.
Wow, the dried porcini is really, wow, that's a lot of flavor.
There's a lot of flavor in that, and I think I knew that was going to happen with the porcini. I mean, it's one of the most flavorful mushrooms there are, and like I said, to me it's just a slight second to shiitake in regards to the flavor that I like, but the flavor in these soups are good. I'm going to try this one more time though.
So, it's really all about what you're going for. Do you want the mushrooms to really stand out? Or do you want the actual dish to have multi-layers in taste? This one has multi-layers.
Definitely.
This one is just straight mushroom. I mean, it cuts right in there. If you don't like mushrooms, probably not the soup to go with. If you want the biggest...
if you don't like mushrooms,
Don't eat cream of mushroom
I wouldn't
soup.
make cream of mushroom soup at home. I'm just going to start off by saying that, but we can move on from that.
But that being said, if you have guests that aren't like the biggest fan of mushrooms, this is actually not too strong. It's sweet, it's creamy, it's a slight subtle mushroom flavor as opposed to this one, which is just almost like a punch in the nose of mushroom.
And me being a huge mushroom fan, I'm not over exaggerating that at all just for this episode. I love mushrooms, I love cooking with them. I'm just gonna step out and say that I think I like this dish the best. This is a very good soup in regards to, like you said, the multi-flavoring in it, but if I want a Korean mushroom soup, I want mushrooms, and that's what I'm looking for. But this is a definite another option for you, like you said, if you have somebody that doesn't necessarily like the flavor of mushroom a whole lot, it's a good dish for them.
Don't make mushroom soup.
Don't make mushroom soup though, if they don't
That
like
being said, I think it goes without even second guessing. Cream of mushroom soup, the winner, Emeril's porcini.
Winner!
It is.
Emeril, thank you.
Tyler Florence is not a loser, it's just not the favorite when it comes to straight up cream of mushroom soup. That being said, my name is BC Hoffman.
And I'm Adrian Bustamante.
And this has been Recipe Wars. Please subscribe to our channel, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. Please, you keep watching and we'll keep cooking.